Hey everyone, we're back again this week. I've got lovely Luba with me again. And I'm Patrick from the Centered Man Project. And this week what we're going to talk about is empowered relationships. I'm gonna let Luba get started and explain to us what exactly is an empowered relationship. But first, what kind of tea are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking this absolutely fantastic peach and ginger tea, Patrick, and it was made for 2 hours. Actually, it was steeping in a very special kettle, and I'm drinking it out of this very special, beautiful cup, as you can see. Mm.
I'm drinking very plain Chinese green tea in a very plain white mug.
Yeah, and that is a great, great way for us to go into the discussion of feminine and masculine energy. Masculine energy being usually very minimalistic,
Mm.
yeah. And when a man, when the man is very, very manly, he likes to be alone in a cave, and so that nothing except for his survival kit was laying around, and definitely nothing extra. Meanwhile, a woman usually, if she responds to the call of her soul, loves to have many different objects of all kinds of colors and shapes, and laying around everywhere. And so, yeah, this is a great demonstration.
So, Luba, why don't we jump into it actually, since you've already laid the foundation. So, what would constitute an empowered relationship for you? What would you think is what are some of the building blocks of an empowered relationship?
Empowered relationship is the relationship that is instrumental for your growth. And honestly, every relationship is instrumental for growth, but some relationship at some point stall you. At some point, you don't grow anymore. So at some point, they just start taking the energy out of you. So an empowered relationship is a relationship where you are constantly growing, and what's happening is brought up from subconscious mind into the light of consciousness, and both partners are able to get their lessons from their interactions and step to the next level of mutual trust and understanding, forgiveness, and enlightened sex.
Wow, it's a very in-depth response. Okay, actually, I wanna draw attention to something specific here. What about some people who tend to find themselves constantly in the same type of cyclical relationship, almost where it's dull, it's nothing exciting? Would that constitute an empowered relationship, or if they're already into it and not willing to, let's say, sacrifice their relationship, how would one how would one transition into a more empowered relationship with their partner?
If the relationship kind of went stale,
Yeah.
right? Like we within the relationship, things are kind of boring. There are many things to look at. One of the things to look at is your own life, your relationship with yourself. How exciting is that?
Mm.
Because like if that relationship is very exciting, then usually the relationship with another person also tends to be more exciting. Another thing to look at is the common vision. Do we have anything together that we represent for the world? And are we co-creating? So if we are co-creating, things get exciting. Because the first stage of, let's say, hunting for each other, or the first infatuation stage, usually wears off pretty fast for everyone. And so unless there is a very strong foundation of why we're together, what we're doing together in the world, things are just not going to be very exciting. Then there is another way of excitement, which is drama. And sometimes there are these relationships that are exciting because there's a lot of drama in them. And that's definitely not something I would recommend. But yeah, I would say that first look into yourself, see your own mission in the world, how exciting that is. See if there is a common vision together with a partner. And if there is, there are so many different ways to create possibilities and opportunities to recruit your partner into something exciting. Would you like me to give you some examples on that?
Yeah, please, of course.
But does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But give
Yeah.
us something practical for our listeners. What are some
Yeah.
things that we can work on?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, well, one of the most common things, especially for young people, is the co-creation of a household or a family, for example. And but young people of new generation, of your generation, Patrick, are now, thank God, more ambitious, and many see themselves as like beacons of light. So if they're co-creating a household, often they want to be like the center of light for their community, and to gather people, and to create some kind of an oasis within their household. So you can get very creative with that, um, making something sustainable, something beautiful, maybe organic, something full of things which are good for your health, and inviting people into that space to partake of a very healthy and conscious lifestyle. For example, a couple can create their own rituals, their own holidays, their own kind of gatherings. That is very, very exciting. Within those gatherings, there could be their own, let's say, songs that they sing, or their own the kind of music that they play, so they can create a world, right? So another way, yeah, to make things exciting, creation of children and raising children, and that can get very, very creative. Like how do we envision who is our extension, who are we producing, who are we like channeling into the world? So that can be very exciting for many people. Then, of course, as a teacher of conscious sexuality, I am very big on expanding the sexual palette of how people in a couple can communicate with each other. And really, sky's the limit there. It's a very big topic and requires maybe several different conversations at least.
We're definitely going to cover that at some point, and probably give a couple full episodes dedicated to that alone.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then what else can be exciting? What can be exciting is showing your world to your partner, like really sharing where you come from, showing people in your world, your favorite poems, sharing your favorite songs, places in the city, maybe places in the world, right? Like favorite things that you do, maybe inviting your partner into them, at least giving an opportunity for that. Yeah. Then there are some people, they get excited about standing up for some cause together very strongly. And there are couples like that. They are constantly on fire, very excited, because they feel that their mission unites them, and that is very important. What else can be exciting? Um, well, tell me specifically, what did you have in mind? Was there some kind of issue? What's going on?
um, Actually, it's interesting because the more that you talk, the more I'm able to form kind of a clearer idea. And I like a lot of your ideas, what you recommend, but I think that it's important to point out what's really necessary here, and this is where my expertise kicks in. This is what I've been playing around with and dabbling in for the last, at least a good last 2 or 3 years. And really, what I've come to understand is that we tend to attract our reciprocal. And so we'll attract, depending on our degree of openness, we will attract someone who's along the spectrum, are reciprocal. And what that means, basically put, is that you're going to attract someone who's just as wounded as you are. But the more enlightened you are, and the more conscious you are, and the more open you are in love, then the more you'll attract someone who's your reciprocal, who's also just as open or open to being opened. And so when you talk about things like sharing in your mission and partaking in creating something together, well, this is the interesting dance between the masculine and the feminine, right? And we all have an essence within us which is either mostly masculine or mostly feminine. This has nothing to do with gender.
Yeah.
And so, just for those of you who aren't aware, the masculine is empty consciousness.
Yeah.
Very, very simply put, it's the capacity to be fully present and fully there in your life, plus a powerful sense of direction and purpose. Now, the feminine, on the other hand, is the flow of light, of life itself, of life force, which is why it's Mother Nature and not Father Nature, right? So it's very simply put. And so the masculine is always interplaying with the feminine. This is important to point out. Okay, especially for me who works with men mostly. Luba, you can throw in some stuff about women if you'd like, but for me who works with men who are especially attempting to discover their masculine, it's become highly apparent that the masculine is always playing with the feminine. We're just not aware of it, right? And so we'll go, as men, we will go into nature, we'll go on our camping trips, and we'll face death. And what is the ultimate purpose? Well, it's to just go, and just, just observe the feminine, which is nature, right? Just be overwhelmed by the beauty of the lake and the forest and the mountains. And it's the same exact energy as you sitting in a cafe and the beautiful barista is this cute little 19-year-old blonde, just this lovely, bubbly, full of light and love and energy, and she's pouring your coffee, and you just look up from your computer, and you're just, like you're just awestruck. There's something refreshing and rejuvenating here. So how does this relate to what Luba and I are discussing right now? Is that if you're finding yourself trapped in a relationship loop, if you always tend to attract the same broken, damaging people that are only breaking and damaging you more, well, it means that essentially you're attracting your reciprocal, and so there's a damage, there's a pain that you've closed off yourself that has caused you to close yourself off. And unless you learn to open in that pain, and that's a scary thing, by the way. I have actually, I was last week, I was with this beautiful, beautiful girl, and we were talking about this, and she was telling me, we were sitting, we were having tea, and she's telling me how sometimes when she can't find parking, she just spontaneously just bursts into tears, and I found that so adorable. But it's the feminine flow of emotion, it's its way of expressing itself, but at the same time, a lot of people who will spontaneously erupt into anger or into just a profound sadness, it has nothing to do with the current situation. It's just it's a pain that they've not opened themselves to, that's trying to find its way out. It's trying to express itself. And so before you, I mean, even really the founding pillar of an empowered relationship is first and foremost the relationship between you and yourself. It's how well do you relate to yourself energetically and consciously. Where are you on the scale? Are you aware of whether you're in your masculine or in your feminine? Because the important thing too is, what it'll mean is you'll tend to attract your reciprocal. So if you are a man who happens to be in his feminine, right? So for example, a lot of artsy types, okay, and this is not a gender thing, and it has nothing to do with how manly you are or not at all. It just depends. If your priority in that moment is the flow of love, you want to feel loved and you want to feel cared for, then you are essentially in your feminine. But if you want to open someone in love, right, just be there so fully and so consciously, so fearlessly present that your lover just surrenders in love. It's like, like you have me. Well, then you are essentially in your masculine. And so I think it's about understanding where you sit on the scale, finding out and coming to terms with who you are energetically, and then coming from that perspective, right? Because we all have something to give. We all have a gift. And from the feminine, it is light and radiance and joy and beauty and the flow, right? It's what makes it interesting in the first place. And from the masculine, your gift is direction and fearless presence. It's this unwavering, unshaking, I mean, for lack of a better word, confidence, but it's deeper than that. It's just knowing who you are and what your purpose is. Luba, what do you think of all this?
Yeah. I think it's wonderful what you're saying, Patrick. I think that there's time to want to rapture, and there's time to want to be raptured, and there's time to want to surrender, and there's time to just want to provide an experience. And at the end of the day, I feel that the healthy dance within yourself of masculine and feminine energy is the most exciting thing that there is, actually. Yeah, I love to play with both of those.
That's interesting too, because if you look at, for example, the yin and the yang, right?
Yeah.
There's always a dash of each other within the general, right? There's a bit of yin inside the yang and a bit of yang inside the yin, and so ultimately, really, what it is about is to, I mean, a well-enlightened, well-rounded individual is someone who knows when the time is right to either, who's mostly in his or her feminine essence, but who knows when to dabble in the masculine, and vice versa, when you're mostly in your masculine essence, but to know when it's time to dabble in your feminine, right? And so you'll notice if you go to any bar or club, right, especially people of my generation, and you'll notice that the way that the men, right, the women, they'll jump right in and just dance, and they're fully flowing and full of light and love, right? And the men, there's this rigid, like they're closed off in their heart space, and they're just kind of rigidly bobbing along, not sure who's watching, right? So it's this kind of like tug of war between their masculine and the feminine. Do I just let go and do I just flow and be who I want to be, or do I hold and just observe and just be? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, ultimately, really, if you're mostly in your masculine essence, there's no use negating that. And if you're mostly in your feminine, there's no use negating that. And I believe that's the reason for a lot of unhappiness. And again, Luba, feel free to jump in since you work mostly with women. But a lot of the men that I've worked with, a lot of their partners tend to leave them because the fact is 80%, I would say, again, this is an arbitrary number, but the vast majority of women have a feminine essence. It's just the way that they are. It's the way that they wired. And so based on polarity, if their direction is compromised, even for a second, then the women will be, in their life, is just depolarized. And so they come see me and they go, why did my girlfriend or my wife, leave me and is not interested in me or whatever? And so it's always a very, very simple question. It's what are you doing? Where's your sense of direction? And that's as simple as thinking about what's the next thing to say, right?
Yeah,
You're
for sure, for sure. A woman gets excited about men's sense of direction for sure, and women get excited about the man's purpose because when they're giving to the man, the ultimate spiritual desire is to serve a man who services humanity in a way that is exciting for the woman.
of
And
course.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that this man has to have some kind of very specifically a job like of a, I don't know, like of a president of United States. It doesn't have to be that at all. But just in the way that this man sees himself of who he is in evolution, that is what turns on the woman's soul, really.
Yeah, of course. That's very important too. Is it's not, a lot of people, a lot of men will be discouraged and like, oh crap, I'm not a famous rock star. I'm not Ronaldo. And it's interesting to point that out again. I always give this example. I don't watch football personally, but I'm a big fan of Ronaldo. Why? Because the moment he steps on the field, he's creating art. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's having a good day or a bad day or people love him or people hate him. The moment he steps on the field, he's going to make something, he's going to do something beautiful. And it's important to notice that it's that potential for greatness within you that is the most attractive to the feminine.
Yeah,
It's
but
that, yeah.
potential is not enough.
No, you don't think so?
No, we just wrote a song like that, and it goes, I brought him home, and my mother told me, potential is not enough.
Okay, but so I mean, in your opinion, so why would potential not be enough? I mean, I don't mean potential like he's got great ideas. What I'm talking about is someone who's committed to something, and it could be as simple as just helping the guy down the street, not necessarily having to change the world, but he's committed towards something, and it's his one-pointed attention, it's his truth that won't
Yeah.
waver.
Actions. No, of course, definitely. No, I agree with everything you're saying. Just the word potential kind of triggered me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're right. I didn't explain it properly. My bad.
uh, the actions. Does this person do throughout the day? How do they feel about themselves? Like when women feel the man and attraction to the man. Some people, they don't even have to step in the field. They just a piece of art themselves. Some people are like when a man is in integrity, when he is honest with himself, when he has a higher mission, and and again, like I feel like honesty is very, very important. Not just honesty in terms of expression, but honesty with himself. And I think this is one of the qualities that is super attractive for women, because even if that truth is a little bit bitter when it happens sometimes, a woman will only appreciate the man even more if he is committed to his truth more than he's committed to his comfort, or more than he's committed to anything else.
Can you expand on that? I like this. I find this very interesting. Can you go a bit deeper in that?
Yeah,
Who aren't really aware of this, or just going, well, how does that help me? Really go into it, please.
yeah. So in in the 21st century, in this digital century, when our attention is constantly being hijacked and our experiences become usually a little bit more shallow, and definitely the time starts to be perceived in a different way than, let's say, a century ago, there is a tendency for many, many people to just be outside of themselves, not to be in touch with what it is that they're feeling. There is no more need to know what you feel. You can always go on Facebook the moment you feel a little bit uncomfortable, or check your email, or play a video game, or drink a beer, or smoke a joint, or whatever it is. There's so many things right now, yeah, that are available for people and young men as well, and mature men, to numb their feelings. And of course, there's a big tendency to numb feelings because, number one, it was considered that being a man, you shouldn't have any feelings, right? You shouldn't cry, you shouldn't like, and what you really have to do, you just have to be this go-getter, always in a good mood, go make this money in whatever way. And so there is this huge tendency to completely numb your feelings. So when a man actually takes time and respects life, in general, in a way that he takes a break, he breathes in, and he actually checks in with himself. What is really happening? Like, this is my life. This is me. This is my name for now, um, this is how I feel. And if he is able to live that truth and express that truth, that is a very, very attractive quality.
Yeah, Luba, you reminded me actually. Have you seen the movie Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Because your description was, it's, I mean, for anybody listening, if you haven't seen it, definitely do. It's great. I'm gonna spoil a little bit of it, but it's literally the opening scene is where Steve Carell is sitting with his wife, well, the character, Cal. So he's sitting with his wife, and they're talking, and she's going on and on about how it's not really working anymore, and he's so not present, he's so not conscious, he's like picking at his food, he's like, this isn't good, he's mumbling stuff. And then
Yeah.
she goes, look, I want a divorce. And then he's just shocked. And then
Yeah.
they're driving home, and she's still going on about how, we haven't been us for years and blah blah, and he just kind of freezes and opens the door and just falls out of the car. Just he just doesn't want to deal with this, he just wants to escape, he wants to get away. And so it's hilarious because he's at the bar getting drunk and mumbling to himself, and he goes, he made the mistake that a frightening amount of people have made, and he's there and he's mumbling, and he goes, I thought I did everything right, I got a great job, I got the house, I got the car, and then my wife cheats on me and leaves me. And that's the point that most people are missing. Whether you make $1 million or $1, it makes no difference. But if you're able to if you're doing this for any other reason other than it's your deepest truth, then you cannot be present with your woman. You cannot be considered or deemed an attractive mate with the feminine. It's a completely different story for the feminine. If we want, we could spend some time on that. But as coming from the masculine, if you are not committed to your deepest truth, and practically speaking, what does it mean? It means that you still want mommy to tell you you're a good boy. You're waiting for kudos. You want the women in your life to say, wow, you're so great. You're expecting praise from the world. If that is the reason why you work, then you're just a child who's still playing King of the Hill. You want to be CEO because you're playing King of the Hill. You want the cars and the houses and so on because you're just trying to gather as many toys as possible, and then you're eagerly waiting, mommy, tell me I'm a good boy, mommy, tell me I'm a good boy. If that's the angle that you're coming from and you think you've done everything right, no wonder you're going to collapse in on yourself. However, if, again, because this is not a critique of materialism, you have the right to want a nice house, you have the right to want a nice car, you also have the right to want to live in rags and donate all of your earnings to a worthy cause, you have the right to live in a monastery, you can do whatever you want, but as long as it's coming from your deepest truth and you're completely unapologetic about that, you work
Exactly.
not for
I
kudos.
love that word. Yes.
What do you think, Luba? Tell us more.
I love the word unapologetic. Yeah, unapologetic existence is attractive. Yeah, and then the woman wants to flow around that existence as a river, to hug that existence with her being. So, yeah, I feel that for a man, this is one of the most important things. And when you are in your truth as a man, there is no other way but to ground at some point into the purpose of your life, man
Yeah,
on the
of course.
mission. There is just no other way. And
It's the solidity of your life is dependent on how grounded you are in your purpose. It's that.
exactly, yeah. And then of course there are also some other things like love for yourself, right? And self-forgiveness and forgiving different aspects of your personality. And in fact, like during this the play that we're setting up for this party for New Year's Eve is called Adam Rising. It's about the man rising in his consciousness. And one of the things which happen is that we have predators in the Garden of Eden, and then robots who come to save the man from the predator. And at the end of the play, Adam, the primordial man, um, accepts those aspects inside of himself. He accepts his own predator, and he accepts his own robot, which is like programs that run him, and that way forgives. And this whole process of self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others is what makes a man a good partner, a good lover, and a good father at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
It's I like just you saying that actually it's a very good segue into our into another aspect is part of being well-rounded is not only, dipping your toes in the feminine when needs be, or vice versa, when you're in your feminine essence, dipping your toes in the masculine, but it's also accepting the darkness within yourself. It's your dark side, right? It's the ability, it's going from, again, this is from the masculine perspective, from the feminine, it's wholly different, but there is a dark feminine as well. We'll get to that. But from the masculine perspective, right, it's going from lashing out in anger at the people that you love close to you and harming other people, right? Because lower states of consciousness is just empty violence. But when that darkness becomes transmuted into light and you accept that dark side of you, it's your ability to kill, to to protect the ones that you love, right? I mean, highly feminine women, whether they'll consciously, openly admit it or not, I mean, you can answer here too, but do you want you want to be sitting with your lover and then there's a spider and he's just like, ew, oh, crush it, right? Like, no, you want, someone, there's a noise downstairs, you don't want him to go, oh my God, what is that? You want him to go to wake up and fall into his element, right? The primordial hunter, and just like be ready to defend you if need be. It might never come to that.
No, that is
But
very, very sexy.
of course, right? And so, but we've chosen to negate that, and so there's this dark masculine that's sitting beneath us, and we're not aware of it, right? And I've talked about this before on another show yesterday, actually, but really something as simple as the boundary between rape and ravaging, right? Like, you ravage your lover, you just open her up and you just take her. I mean, the difference, I mean, besides consent, but from an energetic level, what I mean is that one of them comes from a space of anger and hurt, right? You're lashing out,
Yeah.
you want to conquer a woman, while on the other hand, it comes from just a profound love and appreciation, and you open her with her love. This is something that has to be experienced, because I can't explain this, but for highly conscious people in their masculine who are highly, highly conscious, they'll notice this, and they just look into someone's eyes, someone who's in her feminine, and she just surrenders. She just opens. Like, you look past her hurt, past her fears, past her disappointments, and you just open her with your conscious and your love, and you take her. She just surrenders, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But that comes through accepting the darkness within you to become a well-rounded individual. And for the feminine, this is interesting too, is that it's important to not negate that darkness within yourself as well. So if you're highly feminine, you're going to be like nature. There's tornadoes, there's earthquakes, right? You're going to want to smash some dishes. You're going to want to cry and scream sometimes, and you're going to want to lash out in anger and just completely let go of everything you've been carrying. Do you want your masculine counterpart? Do you want your mate to sit and go, now, calm down, please, calm down. Let's talk about this. You don't want that. There's nothing attractive in that. There's nothing polarizing in that. Who's like, please sit, like trying to contain this. The feminine that is you, and that's the dark feminine.
And what do you want? What do you think you want as a woman in those situations?
Pardon me, I don't understand your question.
You said, as a woman, when you're going all like weathery, what do you think women want from a man?
the polar opposite,
Which would
an
be what in this
unbelievable
moment?
extreme sense of consciousness and love and unwavering, just you just like,
Yeah,
to me it's as simple, whenever my lovers do something just ridiculous, and they're expressing their feminine beauty. I'm not That's the interesting thing, right? Most men, it's not, for those of you listening to this, it has to be something that you feel. You cannot fake this. It's not possible. Your voice will be constrained. Your body will be closed off. She has to trust in your strength of truth, and that comes through your purpose. But ultimately, the response to such an event is, I love you. You're basically communicating. You're planting your staff. You're going, do whatever you want, but I love you. You get crazy, you get angry, I adore you. Come here, and you spin her, and you just laugh together, and eventually she will dissolve. She'll dissolve in love, right?
that
Most
is
of the
so
conflict.
fantastic. Yeah, thank you
Agree, agree
so
or
much for
disagree?
bringing it up. Patrick, this was so incredible. That's exactly what the woman is looking for. You're absolutely right. And let's look at the other side. Like I also want to give some insight, which I
Yeah,
think is
please.
very, very valuable, just exactly along the same lines. So what happens is women often start to push or pressure a man.
Hmm.
And that happens so often. That happens all the time because a man is sitting in his cave doing his thing. It's often hard for a man to go through transitions as easy as a woman would. So sometimes it takes some additional push, additional energy from the feminine for men to like really shake themselves up and kind of like an electron jump into a higher orbit. But once they do, they're there. So that this is like a stereotype, but this is what's been observed. So anyway, and so when a woman pushes a man into something, and let's say the man feels pressured, and the man feels like, oh, she wants something from me. What is it? I'm not ready for it. I'm this, I'm that. Um, and what men want, and this is what I feel very strongly about, is to be accepted. Is just to be accepted where they are, to be heard, to be understood, to be acknowledged and accepted, and to be loved unconditionally. And whether a man is going for that push or not, if a woman is able to go into her higher self, so to speak, and to look at the whole relationship, look at the whole situation from the point of view of more connection with with the universe, surrendering to universe, trusting that this man is going to develop in the way he can, in the divine timing that he can, and just allowing for that to happen, and just giving the response like, well, yeah, I accept you exactly the way you are. You're beautiful exactly the way you are. This is maybe what I would like. This is what would make me happy. And I trust that you want to make me happy, which I always trust, men want. And whenever you're ready, this is what I would like to happen. And I'll give you more detailed instructions on that because, men need very detailed instructions. And so, yeah.
We're
And
slow. We're slow learners. Forgive us.
well, yeah, and that is very understandable as well. But to give that unconditional love, and then the man can feel that, wow, there is so much space, right? How does it feel to you as a man?
Well, I think that I mean, our wording is slightly different, but we're pointing at the same direction here, because essentially the masculine experience it's the feeling of constraint. I mean, that's really what it is that the masculine general experience is this pressure on our shoulders constantly, constantly, constantly. It's not being able to be ourselves and express ourselves freely and so on. But the dark side of the scale is lashing out violently, right? Be it with your lover, right? I mean, again, this is stuff that's controversial, but it's stuff that needs to be addressed in our society, right? You're at work and your boss is nagging you, nagging you, nagging you, and then you come home and there's bills being, not being paid and so on, and your wife comes in and starts yelling at you, complaining, and then you just lose it and you beat the crap out of her, and that's horrible. It's disgusting. But that's the dark side of the masculine. It's just this nature that hasn't been transmuted into light, into consciousness. And on the other side of the scale, really, this concept of enlightenment, of just sitting and just it's the release from those constraints. But on the one end, you're violently hurting others to release yourself from those constraints. But on the light side, this enlightenment is really the conclusion that you've put those constraints on yourself. They don't exist, and it's not reality. So yes, that's why there's this masculine. We're both looking for the same thing. We're both looking to feel loved, right? And to feel just free,
Exactly.
just be who we are and just be and live. But the masculine life essentially is this constraint. And that's the important thing too, okay? I have to say this. A lot of people don't like me talking about this. And Luba, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but to me, a highly, highly conscious woman, and I've experienced this personally, the amazing, oh, I can't say it enough, the incredible women who have blessed my life, they're not the ones who were there when I needed them. A highly conscious woman, when you need her to give you that approval, she's not going to give it to you. And when she feels that you're really at your lowest, she will poke you in your weak spots because she wants to know that you can take it, that you can handle it. And when you are firmly on your feet and you do not need her approval, no matter what, that's when she will give it to you, and she will give you the support, and she will give you everything. When she feels that you don't actually need it. And that's a beautiful thing, and most guys get turned off by this concept. They're like, no, what's the point? Like, you know, but this is the way to ensure your actual growth in consciousness. There's no other way. That's how you evolve and become fully who you are, and you can stand firmly on your own 2 feet, you know, and roar. And I need to point this out as well. You know what you get for it in the end? You
Right.
die.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
die. The masculine, the feminine is always more powerful than the masculine, right? You'll stand in a tornado, you're going to be swept up and destroyed. You're going to be killed by an earthquake, or eventually your body's going to give in, and you're just going to go back to dust where you came from. You die. The feminine always is more powerful than the masculine. But the only choice that we have is to stand firmly in love, and when you die, you go out laughing and clapping, or to just be kicking and screaming and drag down the path and just be this weak, kind of depolarized, just emptiness. Those are the options, but you're not going to get a pat on the head. Like, you know, for the masculine, you're not going to get the good boy that you're looking for, because the world isn't interested in being your mommy. The women
Yeah.
in your life don't want to be your mommy.
For sure, for sure, Patrick. I agree with you. And of course, for a woman, it is a very challenging strategy, I guess. Like, we're not like fully mind readers, you know. We don't know, okay, now he needs support, now he needs a kick in his ass, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So sometimes it can go into too much support or too much kicking in the ass. And and I would actually personally love some guidance on that. Like, so you think that the best strategy is to give support when it's not needed?
I don't see it as a strategy. I see it as the more feminine you are on the scale, right? The more highly you identify with just being light and love and consciousness, then everything you do is going to naturally flow. It's going to be an expression of your deepest truth. Same for the masculine, by the way, right? The more conscious you are in your masculine, right? You know, when I was talking about men who swoon, right? You're sitting at the cafe and there's this gorgeous barista, and she pours, and you just look up and you're like, like he just swooned, right? Well, consequently, for that woman, if she's highly in her feminine, for her to swoon, it's as simple as closing your laptop and looking and just being so fully conscious and so present with her that all that exists is you and her, and you just go, hi. And she will feel that, right? In her bones, there's just something changes in her body, and she just, wow, hello, you know, it's like this amazing, this is love at first sight is what it's called. But so on both ends of the scale, it's the same thing. But that high resonates from your deepest truth. It's this spontaneous eruption of words that mean nothing, really. I mean, you could say, I love potatoes, and look her in the eye, and if there's that level of consciousness, it will still attract her. It doesn't mean anything. And consequently, for your feminine, if you're fully inhabiting your feminine, and I love this, you can see this all the time. I remember when I used to live in Poland, I was with this incredible Ukrainian girl, and we're walking around the old city, and we're in these narrow streets, and then at one point there's music coming from the window, and she just starts skipping and dancing, and she starts spinning, you know, and it's just this complete expression of 1 second ago she was walking, and the next she's dancing. In the same way, 1 second it's sun out, and the next second it's pouring rain, and you know, and that's the expression of the feminine. So I don't see it as a strategy, and I think that it's negating your own essence if you're building it as a strategy, and you have to go, okay, well, now I need to do this for my man, I need to do that for my man. I think that the difference is, the key to your happy relationship is to find your reciprocal, but also be unwavering in your commitment to finding your reciprocal. So what that means from the masculine is, to the men listening, if you're interested in a conscious, evolved, open relationship, then you need to make that promise. This is a decision that I made when I used to live in Amsterdam, so year and a half ago. But I decided no more small talk. I said, you know, you have to make that commitment. I will not accept anything less than her depth. I will be there for her, and I will guide her into openness, but I will not accept anything besides her depth. And the feminine, if you are in your feminine and you want this open, just completely loving relationship where you're free, because that's what consciousness is, right? When the masculine is empty consciousness, then he's created that space essentially for you to be who you want to be and be that flow. If you're angry, you're angry, and if you're feeling loving, you're loving, and he won't judge you in any way. It's not this wimpy acceptance. It's this conscious, loving, you know, do whatever you want to do. You want to yell at me, come at me, but I love you no matter what. You want to be beautiful and make us this, you know, incredible breakfast when I wake up? Gorgeous. I love you. It's amazing, right? If you want that, then you also need the commitment to not accept anything other than his unwavering strength of truth. And so it's a feeling. If you're feeling his wavering, if you're feeling that one comment you make will deflate him or derail him and he'll get defensive, then you'll feel that something will change in your body. If you're highly feminine, there's a depolarization. You just, I don't know, you just don't trust him anymore, right? The trust wears off. I'm sure you've experienced that, Luba. Has it happened to you? That the trust is this, there's no real reason. He just, one thing he said, and you just felt it. It didn't come from his deepest truth, and you're not interested in what he has to say anymore. It just doesn't matter.
It happened to me many times.
There you go. There you go. And so it's not a concept so much as it's a feeling. So really my advice is, listen to the way that you feel. Don't fight yourself. If you feel that depolarization, don't fight it and go, no, you know, we spent 2 years together, you know, just don't accept it. I mean, I'm not saying walk away, leave him, that's not what I mean, but express your hurt. You know, you're hurting, that's it. I mean, the reality is 99%, cut me off if you think I'm wrong, but 99% of a problem coming from the feminine, if there's problems, there's a friction in the relationship, it comes from the feminine who's not feeling loved or as loved as she would like to feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like we touched upon the most important points, which is for a man mostly, and for everyone to be in their truth, to stop, to check in. Maybe like I feel like some kind of exercises like meditation could be something. Maybe there's something you can share, how a man, like for example, when he's very busy, right, he runs around all day, the boss, this, that, like you were describing, and when he comes home, of course, you know, the first thing that when you're very, very tired and after you were very busy, the first thing that is the easiest is probably some food, right? Or maybe some kind of junk spiritual food, or like meaning like some kind of entertainment, right? Which is not necessarily conducive for your inner growth. And those are the easiest things to absorb, right? When you want to relax, but at the same time, there are so many more advanced ways.
Yeah, the distraction, ultimately.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, Patrick, what do you recommend for a man as a daily practice to check in with their truth?
You know what? That's a beautiful question. I'm going to throw it right back after you at you when I'm done. But yeah, see, for the masculine, and especially the more masculine you are on the scale, the more important this exercise is. And for those of you listening, it's actually Luba who opened me up to this. It's kind of a variation of Osho's dynamic meditation, whereas the classic meditation in which you sit and you observe your thoughts over and over is a very, very masculine practice. It's this heightening of your presence and your awareness. And for a highly feminine person, that's tantamount to torture. It's just not enjoyable. It's like, why the hell would I do this? I'd rather dance and go crazy and so on. So as a masculine, what I want you to do is to give yourself a good 10 to 15 minutes in which you just, I've got some nice candles back here, and I'll do this after I've had a really long week. I will turn everything off, the lights, and I'll light these candles, and I'll put music, and I will start just letting myself go and just convulsing. And the point is to reach catharsis. And so when you get to this point where you just lost yourself completely, it usually takes about 10, 15 minutes, but it could happen faster after. Just give yourself that time. You feel the need, whatever arises in you emotionally, you have to let it out. And the reason for this is that we have, eventually we reach a breaking point. If we don't open in our pain, we reach that breaking point. And so we end up harming the people close to us, or we end up, exploding when it's wrong, at a business meeting, at your boss, or screwing something up. So the point is, in a controlled environment, this is a very good thing. But what happens is, when we have these emotions and these feelings, we depress them, right? The depression itself, it's not, this girl didn't return my phone call this week. It's the girl didn't return my phone call this week, and last week my grandmother died, who I was very close to, and the week before that I had a car accident, the week before that I almost lost my job, but I got a raise or whatever. And so we carry these emotions and we depress them, and especially the more masculine that we are, we will ultimately push them aside, and we'll shed a tear or two. Grandma died, and we're like, okay, I'm a man, time to, So in a controlled environment, when you get to this point of catharsis, if you feel like crying, just bawl your eyes out, let it all go. You want to scream, scream. You want to laugh yourself silly. But after a couple minutes, you're going to notice something very fascinating. You're going to notice a type of emptiness, this complete relaxation, this sense of ease. And then I want you to ask a very important question. I want you to sit with yourself and just breathe and ask, what do I really want to say? And this question is not, I don't want you to think about this question, because you're going to say, well, what if I don't want to say anything? When you ask yourself, in that sense of emptiness, the answer doesn't arise from here. You'll notice it arises from down here, and it's your deepest truth. It's what do I want to say about my life, to the incredible women in my life, to my career and the people that I love and care about. What do I want to say? Who am I? And that's this unwavering, just the best way I can describe it is like a candle, the flame of a candle in a completely windless place. It's just this beacon of light and consciousness that's unshaking and unwavering. And that's the way to answer that question, is when you're in that stage, ask yourself the question, and you'll notice the answer is, it's like this profound, spontaneous arising, and the answer will really, it'll awaken you in a way. It'll surprise you. Luba, what's an exercise you can give for someone who's highly feminine?
The most important exercise for someone highly feminine is to be connected to your heart. And it's very easy to be disconnected from the heart. Heart is what we love with. And so it's easy to be kicked out of that through painful experiences and disappointments and all the pollution, physical and mental pollution that goes on, and through cravings and ignorance and bad sex, rejection, and lack of self-love. It is so easy to be out of that. But the real strength and the real meaning of why we're here is the test of the spirit. And the test of the spirit is just how much the spirit can love, no matter what. So that exercise is the most important exercise, I think, out of all meditations and everything, all the practices that we do, is the exercise of keeping your heart open through compassion towards yourself and others. Every night before you go to sleep, just think about, put your hand on your heart, feel the heart, feel the breath, and just think about the world. Think about all these people who are going through suffering in different countries, who are like people that you know personally, who are going through processes where they're in the dark night of their soul, maybe. Just think about all of those people while your hand is on your heart and you're breathing and you're feeling your heart. Just remind yourself of all the good things that you have in your life. Get grateful. And until you do that, you yourself will be getting all kinds of lessons. But when we finally come into the understanding of this gratefulness, and when we are fully with open heart, with compassion, honestly, very few things can touch us really at this point. Then we become really, really, really invincible. Then our spirit is so high, and then we can deal with impermanence, and we can deal with any kind of rejection, and we can deal with any kind of darkness, and then we become this, messiahs of our world. So that is the exercise that I want to recommend.
I like it. I want to spend next week actually talking almost exclusively about opening our heart space, about how to deal with pain, how to open up in times of pain. So for those of you who are dealing with heartbreak or just some kind of pain and feeling dejected or rejected or unloved, it's how to open in those times and open your heart and really start to feel the love, even though it might not be visibly there for you. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Luba for being a part of this again, and
Thank
we'll see
you.
everybody next week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. Have a wonderful week.
All right, you too. Bye bye.